Glad to see everybody this morning. It's been an interesting week for all of us, I'm sure. Terry and I are in the process of beginning to move to Templeton from our home in Tascadero, and it's going to be a long, drawn-out process. We've been busy this week, as I'm sure all of you have, even though you're still more or less sheltered in place, and we want to welcome you. Awakening Ways is a New Thought spiritual community in the lineage of Dr. Ernest Holmes. We're a community that believes that there's a golden thread of truth and love that winds its way through all great spiritual traditions, and that whatever your particular spiritual tradition is, it has one of the strands that's in that golden thread. We believe that our job is to help people awaken to the divinity within them, for the divine is truly in us, as us, at all times. We are all part of this one universal consciousness, this one universal presence that makes itself known to us in that still small voice when we allow ourselves to get quiet. So we believe our job here is to, wherever you're here, wherever you go when you leave here, right now, for this sacred moment, you're here because you were called here by divine appointment. And so for right now, for this sacred moment, welcome home. We've been waiting for you. I'd like to take just a moment to get quiet and prepare ourselves to enter into that space of silence, of gratitude, that space of openness to the word, as we allow ourselves to close our eyes and get quiet. And to know that there is one divine source of all life. That divine source is in and is all life. Whether we call it God or we call it something else, it is that amazing vitality that marks the difference between living and non-living, between sentient and non-sentient. We are all called here by this divine appointment, by this divine vitality within us. And so I know for each of us today that divine moving through us and as us speaks and listens. I know that the divine moves through Dr. Terry as she shares her words. I know that the divine moves through Jimmy and the other musicians as they share their beautiful melodies with us. And I know each of us hears exactly what we need to hear this day, for that is the divine call that we have answered. I'm so grateful for everyone being here today. I'm so grateful for this beautiful morning. I know that the divine is working through us all, as we gather together. And so there's nothing I need to do. There's nothing even the law needs to do in this moment except for us to say, and so it is. Amen.
Namaste. Good morning. The light and love the divine in me honors and greets the light and love the divine in each and every one of you here this morning. Don't you know that you are God? They just told us that. That's the truth for all of us. So we're here to remind you of that beautiful, radiant truth that's ever present that sometimes we forget. So our seed of awakening for this month is vitality. Vitality, and I think we're ready for that. I think we're ready for some vitality, for sure. All of us, I don't think there's anyone here who this isn't true for. We have all been spending these last few months sheltering in place. And some of us have been using that time of sheltering in place to kind of dive into our inner lives, to dive into our inner worlds, and to kind of reconnect with the silence. You know, remember the silence, because maybe we forgot. And so we had time to reconnect with that silence. We slowed down. We took some time to figure out what's really important for each and every one of us, what we value, what we want to do, what's necessary for our happiness. And all of that time, it's like an incubation period, really, where we were just nesting in this inner world, served us really, really well. It served us really well, but now it's time. Now it's time to re-emerge. It's time for us to rise. It's time for us to re-enter the world. It's time. Some of us have started. Some of us are kind of lagging behind. And I know that many people are finding it difficult to even think about going out there. You know, just thinking about it is enough to just make you want to move back in to shelter in place. And you know what? I completely get that. I really get it. I understand that. But what we need to remember is that out there is not the same as it once was. It has changed. It's changed because everyone else has changed. Just like you feel different now, so do millions of other people. And so it really, literally, truly is a brand new world today. It's a brand new world. this is just a personal opinion, and my personal opinion is that, you know, these protests and this movement that's taking place is really just an indication of a mass spiritual awakening, right? Because the truth is that as people have begun to emerge from their quiet, from their deep place, what they're finding is that they're sensitive. They're much more sensitive to what's going on. And what once might have been acceptable behavior or acceptable appearances or whatever, no longer are. People have changed. The perspective of the country, actually, and probably the planet as well, seems to have taken a shift for the good. I think this new sensitivity, I think it's very good, don't you? I mean, this can make the difference in a big way for all of us if we just become a little more aware, a little more sensitive to ourselves and to what's out there and other people. Many of you, some of you are not from this local area, so I was also thinking about a local crisis that we had here in North County in San Luis Obispo last week. It was a man who shot and killed another man. He wounded several police officers and eventually ended up giving his own life. Did he kill more than one police? No, okay. Yeah, right. Thank goodness for that. Clearly, this man was not in his right mind, right? He was not in his right mind. And the damage that he caused was huge, huge. And for those who were closest to this experience, because we know several people who were, when the manhunt was going on, they were very close to the whole event. For them, this was an extremely scary event. They were afraid for their lives. For the rest of us who weren't in the immediate area, our job was to do our spiritual practices. Our job was to do the prayer work and to hold everyone in prayer and know the highest and greatest outcome for everyone involved, including the man himself. Our job was to hold the high watch, and just surround everyone and everything in the light of spirit. And in looking at that whole event from a higher perspective, really, in many ways, the whole experience allowed, at least for our community, this North County of San Luis Obispo, allowed us to connect with one another in a deeper way. We all moved into loving kindness and concern for one another, right? We were all caring about all of those people who were involved in that whole situation. So, although it was tragic, there were some really powerful, positive outcomes from that. And the other reality is that this experience, this whole experience, was just one more example of how violence is never the answer to anything. Violence never solves anything. The only thing violence manages to do is create more and more separation in so many ways. And so it clearly pointed that out, and also kind of reminded us of how frail life is, and how fragile life is, and how valuable each and every human life is. So it was an amazing experience, not one that we would like to repeat, and yet we still can garner some benefits from the whole experience. I'm kind of wondering if maybe this whole energy shift is not the beginning of our answered prayers. We've all been praying for a shift. We've all been praying for more kindness. We've all been praying for peace. We've all been praying for just the recognition of life and the goodness of life itself. And perhaps this is the beginnings of an answer to those prayers that we've been praying daily. Joseph Campbell said this. He said, "I think that what we're seeking is an experience of being alive, so that our life experiences on the purely physical plane will have resonances with our own innermost being and reality, so that we actually feel the rapture of being alive." Feeling the rapture of being alive. And doesn't it feel like that has begun to happen? Aren't you sensing that? Aren't you aware of that? We are so much more aware of things than we used to be. Things that we took for granted, you know, with all the focus on illness and dying, we're just naturally turning to our own bodies and nurturing our bodies and honoring our bodies and being grateful for the bodies that we have. We're absolutely more conscious of our unity with everything, and especially our unity with other beings, other human beings, and how what we do affects everyone else, and how we literally do share this planet with one another. You know, we actually do breathe the same air. It is a reality. We actually do drink the same water. This is a reality. And we can see it playing out. And we know that the effect of one person does make a difference. It does make a difference, and it matters that we stay aware of our actions and how what we do affects everyone and everything else. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Maybe you, like Frank mentioned, that we're in the process of moving. So for me, my energy level has been kind of low, but it was kind of low anyway because of this transition from moving to being sheltered in, to moving to being out in the world. And so my energy level was a little bit down, and maybe you've noticed that about yourself as well. So how perfect that vitality is our seed of awakening for this month. You know, in our Western culture, this is what it says about vitality, that it's most strongly associated with the supply of physical energy, vigor, and power. That's the Western culture's view of vitality. And also we tend to run these words together. Health, energy, vitality, especially the words health and vitality. And while they work in harmony with one another, they are not the same. Health and vitality are not the same. In fact, in our Western medicine model, the medicine doctors often judge health. They judge our health by what we don't have. Okay? If we don't have clogged arteries, if we don't have diabetes, if we don't have high blood pressure, then we must be in pretty good health. So, in other words, it's not about how much health is in you, it's how much illness is not in you. That's odd. That's odd. And the truth is, you could go and work out every day. You could run 5 miles a day. You could have the best diet in the whole world. You could be the epitome of a physical, healthy specimen. But if you did not have any meaning or purpose or passion in your life, what you would be missing is the key element of vitality in the life. Eastern cultures look at vitality in a completely different way. You know, Frank talked about this. He touched on it a little bit last week. In the Eastern traditions, vitality is viewed as a revered, okay, there's a good word, revered life force energy that flows through and permeates all things. So to the Japanese, it's ki. To the Hindus, it's prana. To the Chinese, it's chi. And we would say that vitality is the presence of the divine flow moving in, as, and through all things, especially in us. It is what is beating our hearts. It is what's breathing us. It is literally aliveness itself. This is what spiritually we would call vitality. Ernest Holmes says this: you are surrounded by a dynamic force, a great surge of living power. You are immersed in and saturated with the vital essence of life. Immersed in and saturated with. Its presence permeates everything, binding all together in one complete whole. Can you get that? That there is this vitality, this energy, this essence, this living power. And it's not just out here, it's everywhere, and it permeates our physical bodies. It permeates everything. We are energy beings and we are connected energetically. This is vitality. And these bodies express that vitality. You know, as children, we were fully energized with vitality. We were fully charged with that divine energy. But as we grew up and we started to experience all of the traumas and the dramas and the struggles and the strains of growing up, that vitality started to wane. It started to drift. It started to get weaker and weaker. But here's the truth, and you know this already. Vitality is a divine quality, and divine qualities cannot diminish. They are always fully present. So my job here is to remind you that this is another one of those qualities that is fully alive in all of us. It is fully alive in you now. And all you have to do is reconnect with it. Reconnect with it. It's there. Working on this talk reminded me of this experience that Frank and I had years ago. Maybe because we're moving, and maybe because we have this motorhome sitting on our property that we're going to have to find another home for. I was reminded of our camping trips in the motorhome in the past. And several years we would trek up to Lassen State Park up north, up to Lassen. And we'd stay, a week or so up there in a campground that we really loved. And that's the magic of camping. You can find spots that you really love and just continue to go back to them year after year and just feel yourself filled so well by doing that. And we really enjoyed Lassen. I have a shirt, and the shirt says, I got it from Lassen, and it says, Lassen, the one and lonely. They called it the Lonely Park because so few people went there. But let me tell you, that's great if you're a camper, because there are so few people that you can just enjoy going and doing and being without all the crowds. So our usual schedule, our daily schedule, was that we would get up and have breakfast, and then we would go out and we would go to someplace different every day, to check out the area and, to the park and the surrounding area. So this one day we decided to go to this area in the park called Bumpass Hill. Bumpass Hill. And Bumpass Hill is a trail that leads to these hydrothermal pools in Lassen. So these hot steaming pools. And it's a hike, but really it's only like maybe a 3-mile round trip hike. It is uphill, but not extremely steep, but it is at 8,000 feet. And for me, that hike was a real challenge. And I can still remember walking up the trail, and we just had to keep stopping over and over again because I couldn't breathe, because my legs were feeling, I don't know, maybe they weren't getting enough oxygen because I wasn't breathing. I don't know, but I was just really having a hard time. And at one point, we just looked at each other, and I was thinking about going back down the hill and not going all the way, but we talked about it and we decided, we really want to see these pools. So let's go for it. So we made the decision to move ahead. And you know how things are when you make a decision like that. As we started moving on up the trail, I noticed that I had this kind of renewed sense of focus and energy. I was still tired, but I just kept moving, and I was moving in a different way. I was more determined. And we did make it to the pools, and let me tell you, there was great celebration and hugging and yelling and saying, yes, yes. Frank and I were hugging each other. I was about ready to get down on the ground and kiss the ground. I was so grateful to be there. But we had made it. We had made it. And it was remarkable. And we're so grateful that we managed to go there because it was well worth the trip. But as I look back on the experience, what I know is that there was a shift that took place when we made the decision to go forward. And what I realized in thinking about it was, we're dealing with vitality, was that what happened was I made the shift away from relying on my own physical strength and body. And instead, I turned to that deeper spiritual, divine vitality that was in me and relied on that vitality to get me to the top of that hill. And there was like a whole different energy feeling. You know what I'm saying? It just felt different. It was more alive and more focused with purpose. So not surprising that I made it to the top. And I'm sure that all of us have felt that experience in some time of our lives. And maybe we never called it what it is, but now we know what it is. When we have those experiences, it is when we have allowed ourselves to rely on divine vitality to see us through. Because why? It's right where we are. We don't have to rely just on our own physical strength. We can let the divine give us an assist because it's right there within us. But I also know that vitality is more than just physical strength. It's more than that, much more than that. Do you know people who, when you think about them, you would say, those people have so much vitality? There are people that they're just different somehow. Their eyes, their eyes twinkle just a little bit brighter. Maybe their step has a little more bounce to it. They smile more. They seem to have more energy. In fact, these people just tend to seem to have more energy in general. Well, these people, and think about the people in your life who are like this, because we all know some. These people are our mentors. They are our mentors because they have connected with and they have figured out how to use this divine vitality that's within them and to live from that place. They are our teachers. Appreciate them. They're out there. Notice them. Learn from them. And what they don't do, they don't around and worry about how tired they are, about how depressed they are, about how worried they are, how weak, how anxious, how grumpy they are. They don't spend time in that energy. Now, the energy that they spend time in, the majority of the time, they're spending it feeling energized and enthusiastic and excited, revitalized. This is the energy that they live in. These lives, you know, there's an expiration date on this life of ours, and they're too short and they are too precious for us to waste dragging our weak, worried little selves around. It's time for us to re-enter and to recharge. And I wanted to share just a couple of ideas with you about, I mean, none of these are going to be new, but my job is to remind you, to help you remember, things that you can do to revitalize yourself, to help reconnect to that energy. So, number one, most of us are doing this now because I see this everywhere. It's simple. Just go outside. Go outside. If you don't want to go out into the world, that's okay. Then go out into your yard and breathe deeply the air that's there. Breathe the outside air and let the air move through you and feel the air moving in your lungs. Feel it circulating in your body, right? Connect with that. Stand in the sun for just a moment. Just a moment. It's okay. You'll be safe for just a moment. Feel the warmth of the sun on your body. This is the energy of the sun. This is what helps plants to grow. This is what revitalizes and energizes the world we live in. Let it energize you. Feel the earth beneath your feet. This is a subtle energy, but the energy flows up from the earth and moves right up through the soles of our feet, right up into our body. And with every step you take, you can reconnect with that energy. So go outside, easy. The next one is to push your limits. Try something new or try to do something familiar in a different way. If we want to feel revitalized, then we have to do new things, right? Read that huge book that's been sitting in your house. I have a book, honestly, this book, I think it's like 1,500 pages or something. It's not War and Peace, it's a different book, it's a spiritual book, but it's just immense. I've gotten halfway through and then I stopped. So I need to go back and I need to finish that. So read a book you've been wanting to read. Learn to play that musical instrument that you've been longing to play. Learn a foreign language. Try origami. I've tried that. Try painting, pottery. Do something that excites your brain cells. Revitalize yourself. Next, honor yourself. And when I say honor yourself, I mean to acknowledge and utilize the gifts and talents that you already have. That, you know, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. But then you don't ever do it. You have skills, you have talents, you have gifts. Use them. Listen to what Howard Thurman said. Beautiful Howard Thurman, theologian Howard Thurman. He said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So it's you being you, doing what you love to do that will vitalize or revitalize your life. Spend some time thinking about that. What is it that you love to do, that you can do, and will benefit everyone else just because you're doing it. And the next one is, and this is a beg and a plead. This is me saying, please, turn away from fear and turn toward love and joy. And what I want to say is, whatever you do, if it is at all possible, stay far, far, very far, far away from fear-based news. Please. You know, as we move along here in this election year, oh my, it's just going to get more and more negative. We don't need that. That doesn't make us feel good. That doesn't make us feel better. It doesn't solve anything. It's not going to go away. It will be there if we need to touch into it. But as much as possible, avoid that. Avoid that. Turn towards what is good in the world. What's working? What's great? There are good stories out there. Find those. Celebrate those. And my final suggestion today actually comes from my beloved cat, Gabriel. Gabriel taught me this practice, and here's what he does. Almost every day between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m., Gabriel goes to his little basket that's full of little cat toys, and he walks over and he dips his head in and he pulls out some kind of little furry creature. Maybe it's a little mouse or a little furry ball or whatever. He pulls it out and he walks across the kitchen floor, and at a certain place, it's usually the same place, it's either in the kitchen or in the hallway, he will drop what he's carrying and he will stand over this creature or this ball, and he will begin to roar. He just opens his mouth and he just begins to roar. Now, I'm not talking about meow, meow. Oh, no. This is this deep-throated, guttural, loud roar. And he continues to roar nonstop for about 5 minutes. And then he just stops and he walks away and he looks, totally content. Totally content. Well, what I read was that cats need to be ferocious sometime each and every day. They need to spend time being ferocious. Well, so Gabriel's way of being ferocious is to roar. And it is his nature to be that and to do that. And when he roars and he's finished roaring, he is revitalized. Amazing. Well, so what do you think? I know you're not going to go out there. I know you are not going to go out there and roar, but the truth is that we need to find ways to dislodge any pent-up frustration or anger or negativity that we're carrying in our bodies. This little cat doesn't walk around with that stuff. He just roars it out of his body every day. Our nature is to live life fully and for that divine flow to move through us. And if there are things that are blocking that divine flow, then we need to find ways to flush it out, to release it, to let it go. Now, this is a true confession. I don't roar, don't do it out loud, but I have to say, on my walks, I do my walks. And if no one's looking on my walk, and usually they aren't, I do this silent roar thing where I go, wow, wow. And it like releases this pent up energy. You know, this thing goes out on YouTube. I'm sure people are going to say, there's something seriously wrong with this woman. But really, there's not something seriously wrong with me. There's something seriously right with me. Because when I do this silent roaring, I feel better. You know, I've got this kind of thing where I'm just feeling like I just want to, it used to be when we were younger that the thing that women would do is they would scream in their purses. Well, we don't scream in our purses anymore. Now we just do silent roars. Just consider it. I see you, Steve, you're roaring. So our goal in life is to let the divine vitality shine through us. Isn't that just basically it? And to do whatever it is that we can to cultivate this divine vitality, to re-energize ourselves, to reconnect with it. Because the truth is that we were all created to fully experience the rapture of being alive. It is pure and total rapture. This is what we want to feel. This is what we want to be. This is what we want to experience. So, just for a moment, will you join me for just a brief closing prayer? And just allow your eyes to softly close if you're comfortable, and take a deep breath and feel the energy of the divine moving through you as that air passing through your lungs. Feel the energy that is within your body right now. And if you can, you might even be able to feel and be aware of the energy that surrounds you, because we are surrounded by it. And in this very moment, we wake up to the awareness that we are living in, we are surrounded by, we are infused with this divine and sacred vitality of life. And we embrace all that it is, all that this vitality is, and we move it forward in our daily living. And everything that we do and every place that we go, we are aware of this vitality of life, the presence of the divine as energy in us, as us, in each and every moment. And we celebrate it. We celebrate it. We give thanks for it. And we move it forward from this moment on. I give thanks for this vitality. I give thanks for this remembrance. I give thanks for this realization. And I let it be so for me and for each and every person here. Releasing now and letting it be, I simply say, and so it is.
What we need right now is a world full of people instead of getting back into balance. What we need right now is a world full of people set on getting back into it. Think about what you'll do compared to what you won't. Think about what you love.
thank you guys. That was wonderful. And thank you, Dr. Terry, for your wonderful talk this morning and telling the whole world about Gabriel. Just a few announcements that I want to make before we close. Most of you have sent in your gratitude offerings for the inspiration jars, and we're grateful for the level of gratitude that you've all shown. And I know that the jars that are still out will, people will be still sending those in. Thanks for returning those surveys to us. They were very helpful to us. The board is going to be meeting this Wednesday, and we'll be making a decision about an opening date. Right now, the city is saying that it will be available to us starting on the 28th. Whether or not that's when we open, I can't say yet. The board has to decide that. A reminder that their meditation still continues, even though the office is closed to other people. And we're going to have to think about reopening that. But this monthly meditation, this coming Wednesday, we're still going to do it by Zoom. So the Zoom invite will be coming out during the week, probably like tomorrow. And and Terry and I will be available for the meditation on Wednesday. Also, a reminder that prayer requests are still being taken.
Always be taken.
Huh?
Always taken.
Yeah, are always taken. But right now, while we're not together to fill out the orange slip, just call the office and let the message run through. And when the message for you comes on, just say, your name, say, I have a prayer request, and then tell us what it is. And someone will get it, probably Jan, and send it out to everybody immediately so that we are still doing the work for you while you're away.
You can also send an email.
Oh yeah, you can also send an email to awakeningways@thegrid.org, and we'll get it out to everyone that way. Okay? So with that, I just want to leave you with a blessing. That as you enter back into the world, you do so with vitality and joy. You do so with wonderful health and with love for every experience you have. Namaste.